Having got to bed so late, I did not see the sun come up this morning, but our first dive was bright and early, and you can see there we took the Zodiac out and did a back roll into the water. This morning we're doing a wreck called the SS Dunraven, and it's actually a little bit lower than the pointing there you can see on the map. I'm going to take you through the hull in just a minute. It's a steel hull ship, and I'll make it go fast so that you don't have to take as much time as I did. Here you can see the outside of the hull, and it's actually become its own little reef. After this dive, we had lunch and then went to the Thistlegorm. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put Alka on to tell you all about the Thistlegorm while we watch the videos.
Of course, about the history of this boat. Where did she come from? What was it? How did she end up here? So this is a picture of the day she was launched. That picture was taken in Sunderland in the UK. She was built for a company called the Alban Line, and this company had the habit of naming their ships in 2 syllables. The first one, Thistle, the Scottish national plant, and the second one actually a Gaelic word for a colour. So this is the blue thistle. So she was a cargo vessel. 126 meters long, that's 400 odd feet, I don't know, quite a bit more than 400. And yeah, she was built and launched in June 1940. So of course at this time the Second World War had already started, and part of her construction was actually funded by the British government. So it was very clear that she was going to go straight into war duty after she was launched. And because of this, they actually added a plated sort of armored radio room and also an armored deck on the stern where they put on an anti-aircraft gun and a heavy caliber machine gun. Yeah, so that was the plan. So after being launched in June 1940, she did 3 trips across the Atlantic, 1 to North America, 1 to South America, and then 1 to the Caribbean. All of these were described as uneventful. On one of them, though, the captain decided to give the guns on the back deck a bit of a practice run, and rumor has it that that went spectacularly wrong and ended up with the stern being engulfed in smoke and the shell dropping in the water about 50 yards away from the stern of the boat. So apparently the guns that they had were vintage World War I material and were pretty much useless. It didn't make a difference for what happened to her anyway, but yeah, if she had had a chance to defend herself, these things apparently would not have helped much anyway. So on what was to become her final journey, the Thistlegorm was back in the UK. She was in Glasgow, and she was loaded actually with a lot of quite important and valuable war supplies that was actually meant for the Allied forces, including the British forces in North Africa at the time. And this cargo included lots of different vehicles, different trucks, different jeeps, motorcycles of different kinds, airplane spare parts, and of course lots of shells, landmines, ammunition, all that kind of stuff. The final things that they put on were actually for the Egyptian railway, 2 water bowsers, 2 coal tenders, and 2 locomotive engines. And since the cargo holds were completely rammed full at this stage, they placed those actually here on the deck on the top. Yeah, so that was how they left Glasgow in June 1941, so pretty much a year after she was launched. She was part of a larger convoy, and she was bound for Alexandria. Alexandria, as you probably know, is in the Mediterranean, so anyone that is not geographically challenged should not ask what she was doing in the Red Sea at all. Yeah, of course, direct route from the UK, Glasgow, to Alexandria is through the Strait of Gibraltar and then straight on to Alexandria. But at the time, so that's now middle of 1941, a large part of the Mediterranean, especially also of course around here and further on, was controlled by the Axis forces, by Germany and by Italy. So it was considered to be safer anything important that they wanted to reach the Allied forces in North Africa to go the long route. And that's exactly what the convoy of the Thistlegorm did. So all the way around Africa with a stop for coal, which was planned in Cape Town, another one in Aden, and then through the Red Sea. And the plan, of course, was through the Gulf of Suez, the Suez Canal, to reach Alexandria this way. So they reached this area here in the beginning of September 1941. So it took them almost 3 months for this trip. Okay, and then they ended up exactly where we are now. And then the whole convoy was put on hold. And it was put on hold in an area, which is right here, that was called Safe Anchorage F. It was very common that boats that were on the way through the Suez Canal had to stop and had to wait for a certain period of time. That was either due to enemy activity across the channel, due to the priority of their cargo, and on the general waiting times that were actually already in the area anyway. So there was a couple of safe anchorages on either side of the Gulf of Suez all the way up to the Suez Canal. Now when the Thistlegorm arrived here, because of her cargo, she would have had high priority to pass the Suez Canal straight away, but at the time, 2 ships had actually collided at the entrance of the channel, so the whole channel was blocked. Yeah, so the whole convoy was put on hold. They were here on anchor, and they were sitting here for about 2.5 weeks actually. And at this stage, 2.5 weeks into their stay here, German fighter planes came over from Crete, from the Greek island in the Mediterranean where they're stationed. They had just about managed the art of night flying, and they were looking for a large troop carrier that their intel had told them was on the way to North Africa. So looking for this large troop carrier, they flew across this area. The intel was completely wrong. The boat that they were looking for was not even in the Red Sea, let alone carrying troops, so that was totally wrong. So they were basically just on the verge of having to turn around so that with their fuel leftovers they can actually go back to Crete, and they spotted the convoy of the Thistlegorm, with the Thistlegorm being the largest ship in it. So having no idea what it was carrying, they decided to drop 2 bombs on her. And now you can look at this from the 2 different angles. From the German side, they hit the bullseye by sheer luck, because they actually dropped the bombs in the cargo holds that held most of the ammunition. And of course for the Thistlegorm, that was the worst possible outcome. Any other hit would have done a lot less damage.